I think one of the biggest problems, and that I've noticed in my life and just seeing what's going on out there, is that people are a lot braver to say certain things on social media or through email or when they're hiding behind the computer screen. So these so-called trolls, right? And I think that that's a big problem, especially for people that are not adults. So again, there have been suicides because of cyberbullying. The kids are getting very addicted and they're getting attention deficit disorders. This video is going to be a little bit different than most of my videos, which are, how-to videos and tutorial videos and things like that. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because I recently watched the movie, The Social Dilemma. And as a digital marketer, I have a couple of opinions about this, and I really wanted to share it with you guys. And I'm going to be enjoying a nice little cup of hot chocolate in my Be Happy cup. This is actually Rolo hot chocolate. So I'm going to just take a sip. That's good. That hit the spot. Okay. This is my reaction to the Social Dilemma movie. I want to start off by saying that I really just didn't even want to watch this movie in the first place because I felt like it was going to be too negative. And also another reason is because my dad actually asked me to watch it with him. And I was so hesitant to watch it with him because he is very anti-technology. He's anti-social media and online stuff. He's just like not into it. He's very, very old school. So I felt like him asking me to watch this movie with him was his opportunity to tell me why he thinks it's wrong and that kind of thing. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. I really felt like most of this movie was kind of very negative, and it kind of portrayed that, people were not in control and it was becoming addictive and things like that. And while there are definitely aspects of truth to that, I think that you can definitely empower yourself by just knowing the truths. When Facebook first came out, I was very hesitant to get on it because I don't really like people knowing my business, and I don't really want to be sharing my photos with the world. And yeah, I'm a pretty private person in general. So I kind of was really hesitant. But what happened was people started telling me that they're seeing photos of me on social media, on Facebook. And the only way to actually see the photos was to get an account, right? So I kind of felt like now I'm kind of trapped into getting this account because I want to see the photos of myself. Ever since social media, I also became very reluctant to have photos of me taken just because you just never know how it's going to be perceived. Also, if somebody posts a photo of you, technically it never really comes down. Even if they delete it or whatever, Facebook still has that photo of you. And I just thought that was very uncomfortable for me. So I just really don't even like, to this day, people taking photos of me. I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I do like that alone time, the uninterrupted time. And what ended up happening was, I remember, again, this is back in the day, back in the BlackBerry days. We're going to go there. I didn't want to get a BlackBerry because I just didn't want to have my emails kind of constantly reminding me that there's an email or anything like that. I just felt like it was disruptive to my life, but I did have a business back then as well. And I kind of felt like after a while, I couldn't resist it anymore because what was happening was I actually had a photography studio and I was taking on wedding clients, and I wasn't at my studio all the time because I was mostly shooting events. So, I was sometimes working from home if I was doing editing and things like that. And I found that clients would email me, and it was very, very time sensitive, the email, because they just started assuming that everybody was constantly checking their emails, that I would have gotten the emails. So it was things like, they wanted to change an appointment and come in earlier, or, just things like that. So I would be caught in situations like they'd be calling, for example, they'd be calling and I wasn't at my studio. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, the appointment was changed. Last time we spoke, it was this." And they said, "Well, we sent you an email." And I'm like, "Well, I don't check my email every hour," right? So I was just like, "Oh, now I have to get email because I feel like this is something that has to be instant." And then it kind of turned into this thing where it was just 24-hour and people expected a response. And I was getting stressed out about it. I didn't like that at all. And of course, you can do the autoresponder where it says, we'll get back to you within 24 hours. But also, what ended up happening is I would be losing a client sometimes because people weren't patient enough to hear back from me in 24 hours. If they wanted to speak to a potential wedding photographer, they kind of wanted to do it right away. So I became kind of glued to my BlackBerry. And again, I did notice that that was just stressing me out. It wasn't really good for my mental health. But it was just one of those things, like, this is how the world functions now. And I also noticed with a lot of my friends who had more traditional jobs, 9-to-5 jobs, they would be taking a lot of work home and they were expected almost to work until 9 p.m. Right. And it's one of those things where, these changes kind of come about slowly and people just kind of start to embrace them. And before they realize, like, we're kind of, trapped. So in The Social Dilemma, they did talk about how we are addicted and how these social media platforms were designed to get us addicted, right? And one of the main things that caused the addiction was the alerts, right? So when you get a ping on your phone, you want to check it. You want to know what's going on. Were you tagged in a photo? Like, who's trying to reach you, right? And that can be very, very addictive. So in this movie, basically they're kind of blaming, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, for, wanting to get people's attention. I mean, that's what marketers have been doing forever, is trying to get people's attention. And now people's attention is on their devices, is online, is on a screen. So that's where the marketers are going. I mean, some people complain about it, but not a lot. But things like billboards, right? Like when you're driving on the highway and you see this billboard, grabbing your attention. And sometimes these billboards are animated and they're designed to, rotate and things like that. But when you're driving, you really should be focusing on the road and not, trying to read a commercial that's off the highway. So I feel like the marketers, yes, they are doing their job in terms of trying to get our attention. And I think that it is our responsibility to have self-control and to turn off alerts if that's what you need to do. And to be honest with you, I didn't even notice, because a lot of times when you download an app, the alerts sometimes are automatically turned on. So sometimes I would just allow that, and I'd constantly get this alert. And if your phone screen is completely dark and all of a sudden it lights up and you have this alert, obviously you're going to want to check it. So oftentimes I would actually leave my phone face down if I was spending time with family or friends, because I don't want to be distracted by those alerts, because that can always wait. Another problem that I see is with people taking their phones to bed or looking at their phones right before bed. And I'm guilty. I do this. I look at quotes. But it's obviously not very healthy, because of the screen time, we're actually programming our mind or our brain to think that it's still daylight, and it's hard for us to produce the melatonin to be able to fall asleep. So I definitely don't think that it's good to have your social media on right before bed. I think that there is still a use for your phone right before bed. Like, you can be listening to meditative music, or, just an audio book or something that is going to help you kind of fall asleep. And yes, it is true. Like, we're all becoming a little ADD where, our attention is being grabbed all over the place, and it's just hard to focus on any one thing, right? Even with, some of my video production, I'm noticing that I have to do a lot more edits to maintain the engagement. So I think that social media is responsible for a lot of those things. So everything that I've said up until now is pretty much from an adult's point of view. Okay. Now, I'm not speaking for children, because I believe that as adults, we are responsible to be aware of these types of things, to educate ourselves, and to control our consumption of these apps. The problem that I see in today's society is with children, right? Because children cannot be as responsible for their behavior because they're not as developed as an adult. And, in the movie, they were talking about, social media being kind of the new babysitter. And I've heard a lot of people actually admitting that they'll actually let their kids go online to be distracted, so they're not bothering them, because sometimes the parent needs to do things around the house, and the kids, if they need a distraction, they'll kind of put them in front of a tablet or a phone or whatever. And I think that's where the problem kind of really begins, because I think that it is having some negative impacts on small children, especially. So, anybody under 13 years old, even teenagers, of course, with the cyberbullying and things like that. I think one of the biggest problems, and that I've noticed in my life, and just seeing what's going on out there, is that people are a lot braver to say certain things on social media or through email, or when they're hiding behind the computer screen. So these so-called trolls, right? And I think that that's a big problem, especially for people that are not adults. So again, there have been suicides because of cyberbullying. The kids are getting very addicted, and they're getting attention deficit disorders. So I think that it is the parents' responsibility to really limit the intake of the social media and all the online platforms, including gaming and things like that. And I know that it is a lot easier to just, give that device to the child. And I think there is obviously a time and place, and they should consume it in small doses. But I really feel like having a child have social media accounts without the parents' control and monitoring could be potentially very dangerous, not just for the addictive behaviors, but because of you don't really know who they're connecting with on the other end. So that's what I do want to say, is that marketers really need to be responsible for that kind of thing. And also, just in general, I don't know, just as a society, we need to be more cautious about blocking, being able to actually block certain websites and apps. And I have actually a friend right now that's going through this, and she actually can't block certain video gaming sites for her children, that basically they're not doing their schoolwork because we're in the middle of the pandemic and the kids are at home, and they're not actually doing their schoolwork because they're logging into school, but then they're going and playing video games. And I've heard that this is a problem for a lot of students. So now students are not focusing on their schoolwork because they're addicted to these video games. And sometimes parents, they still have to go to their 9 to 5 job, so they can't monitor the child at home. And they're on these websites, right? Instead of doing their schoolwork, because they have become addicted. So I think that obviously you can't completely block them from certain online platforms, but at the same time, you do have to teach them why it's important to only take it in small doses. Because if you completely ban them, they will still find a way to get on it, right? And they'll hide it from you. So it's better for you to know, but still have control, right? So as a parent, it is your responsibility for the consumption. But as an adult, you are completely responsible for yourself. So there's things you can do. You can turn off all your alerts. You can put your phone physically away. You can do, and just even being aware, just being conscious of the fact that these things could be addictive, you can monitor things so that you can get your self-control back. Another thing that the movie talks about is this false news, right? Which I found to be a huge problem, because the thing is, there is so much content out there that you don't know if it's real or if it's not. There are images that are manipulated to look a certain way, and it really wasn't like that. And so things are being manipulated to look a certain way. And whoever's pushing an agenda on us, or whatever you believe about this whole pandemic, like I said, there is so much mixed information out there. And I think it's so easy to just create fake content and distribute it. And because people don't do their due diligence of researching things, and to be honest, not everybody has the time to really do the proper research that should go into everything that you consume. But another big problem that the movie covers is that if you do consume certain content, it will automatically generate more of the same type of content, to the point that you don't realize that there are many other people with a slightly different opinion than you, or a completely different opinion than you, because you're constantly supported by people that have the same mindset, or so it appears that way, because the platforms are only showing you content that you're interested in, because they want to keep you on there as long as possible. So nowadays, it's really kind of hard for people to even have a discussion and have a difference of opinion, because they always think that they're right because they feel so supported, but that's not actually always the case. And I think that we need to be aware of that. Again, awareness brings power. So if we're aware of that, then we should be more open-minded to hearing other perspectives. And again, COVID has been such one of those things with, a lot of my friends and I, where we do have a difference of opinion, and, I'm open to hearing what they have to say, and sometimes they're open to hearing what I have to say. But at the end of the day, it is really about connecting with other human beings on a human level, right? And just, again, being aware that this is being done and not letting it consume you and not letting it manipulate you. Okay. So that's all I have to say about that for now. I really could talk about this forever, but if you guys like this video, or if you have an opinion about the Social Dilemma movie, please let me know below. I read all of my comments and I respond to all of them, so I would love to hear from you guys and hear your opinion. And again, if you liked this style of video, please let me know and I'll make sure to film more of them. Okay? Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.